Damien still couldn't believe that he was seeing the famous warhammer with his own eyes. The hammer itself was the national treasure level item that anyone who played this game would know, the warhammer. It's an item that boosts your power by 500 points, so for normal class users, this would allow them to get around 500 levels stronger. Even before regressing, the warhammer was a treasure-like weapon that was priceless. The old man couldn't help but laugh at Damien's reaction to his hammer. He reveals that he had been using it pretty well till now and also had rejected numerous offers from people who wanted to buy the warhammer off him. Damien was now stunned by the fact that he was missing how he used to talk to people. Because of his propensity stat, he had to avoid meeting other players. So after talking with this old man for a short moment, Damien felt that he really liked him a lot. As the old man placed his hand onto Damien's shoulder, he asked him with a nervous look on his face whether he was free to help him out with something. As he reveals to Damien that he was actually lost at the moment, leaving our boy stunned. The old man recalled that his friends had told him to come to Pharma or Farami or some other place that sounded like those, so he went, but then he got lost because all he did was look at the map and simply moved in the east direction. Damien was shocked to learn this, as the place they were currently at was called the Sloth Valley, which has often sightings of Ungoliants, the spider monster from before. Based on how dangerous this place was, most players would have used the Ripley's Store's warp gate. Even if a player has good luck and doesn't come across any monsters, it was still quite a far distance, since you needed to walk for a day straight. Forming a new plan in his mind, Damien couldn't help but smile to himself, thinking that based on the current situation, he should take this chance to level up, believing that if he was with someone who could send an Ungoliant flying in one go, then it would be easy. So Damien agrees with the old man's request, telling him that they should go together. But the old man was chuckling to himself. Placing his hand onto Damien's shoulder once again, he told Damien to call him uncle instead. Hearing that, our boy started to laugh, letting the old man know that he didn't even know his name. Surprised by that fact, the old man reveals his name to be Kim Chun Sam. But Damien could call him Uncle Chun Sam. As he laughed along, Damien was immediately shocked to learn about the name of the old man. Damien couldn't believe that the old man standing in front of him was the actual Kim Chun Sam. Kim Chun Sam held the title of the Great Commander. Before Damien had regressed, Uncle Chun Sam was not just a master blacksmith, but also the owner of the Iron Guard, the top-ranking manufacturing workers' alliance. The 10 greatest commanders are on an equal playing field with the 10 greatest blood alliances. Damien could not even begin to explain how incredible Uncle Chun Sam's standing was in AC. Since he led an up and rising manufacturing workers' alliance. Right now, that very same person was standing right in front of Damien's eyes. Knowing all of this, Damien couldn't let go of the opportunity. Wasting no time at all, Damien kneels and bows onto the ground repeatedly towards Uncle Chun Sam, who was confused by how Damien was suddenly acting, begging him to accept him. With sparkling eyes and blushed cheeks, Damien tells Uncle Chun Sam that bows were just a way for a nephew to greet his uncle. Damien's plan seems to work, as Uncle Chun Sam couldn't resist the fact that he now has a new nephew. Using this chance, Damien takes his hand, offering to guide him to the proper place. Damien knew that Uncle Chun Sam would be the one who would later create a mythical class weapon. And that was the Arya's Rage, the weapon that King Arthur would use in the future. Before he had regressed, Damien spent all of his time looking at the weapon that Arthur was using. As he gripped his fist hard, our boy swore that this time, he was going to prevent Arthur from getting such a weapon. Holding onto Uncle Chun Sam's hands in a romantic way, Damien suggests to him that they form a party since the journey they were going on was going to be dangerous. Activating the window screen in the game, Damien sends a request to Uncle, telling him that all he needed to do was to accept the invite. Uncle Chun Sam was impressed by this, seeing that this was the first time he had ever gotten a party invite from somehow and that he had finally learned how to do so. Once the boys had joined the same party, they decided to immediately set off to their destination. As the sun began to set in a further forest, we now could see Damien running fast away from something, screaming at Uncle Chun Sam to help. Hearing that his precious nephew was in danger, Uncle quickly asked him what was wrong. Damien reveals that a horde of those giant spider monsters were chasing fast after him. This type of beast was no challenge to Uncle at all, as he had already finished his preparations. So as the spider monster tried to attack him, just like the mighty Thor, Uncle only needed a single hit to kill the Ungoliant. With each swing of his mighty warhammer, every single one of the Ungoliant couldn't withstand a single blow from the old man, dying instantly again and again after a single hit. This continued for quite some time as Uncle just kept swinging and swinging his mighty warhammer, destroying all the spider monsters that were chasing after Damien. Our boy and Chippy this time was a spectator. Watching Uncle Chun Sam kill all those monsters was amazing to them. All Damien did was simply lure the ungoliants to where Uncle was on purpose in order to level up, not knowing that he was able to one-shot all of them, showing our boys that he truly was a monster. Uncle Chun Sam was clearly showing off to his nephew, telling him that since he was feeling a bit stiff, the spider monster's timing was perfect and that Damien was also doing great. Damien had fallen in love, practically kissing Uncle's butt, which Chippy approves of as this was the way to make good connections. Looking around after the spider monster's body had disappeared, loot started to appear where they died. With a quick dash everywhere, Damien wasted no time at all, collecting all of the loot from their canines to their skin and even their strong acidic corrosive body fluids. Thanks to their incredible connection with Uncle Chun Sam, Damien was basically making money without doing anything. Looking at the amount of loot they had gotten without doing anything at all, Damien questions Chippy if they should have done party hunting earlier, but Chippy knew that it would be impossible for Damien. He proudly points out the propensity stat that Damien had, which was in the billion negatives. Being reminded of this, Damien knew that Chippy was right. There was no way he would have been able to team up with others. As they were talking, Uncle Chun Sam appeared and called out to Damien, pointing at the badge on his chest and asking what it was about. Damien explained that the badge he was wearing belonged to the Adventures Guild and was his adventure certificate. The one he was wearing specifically was the Platinum badge. This was the type of thing that you would receive if you passed the Adventures Guild qualification test, but Uncle Chun Sam seemed clueless about it. Damien was stunned to see this, so he questions him on whether he had received his adventure certificate yet. Uncle Chun Sam laughs, telling Damien that he hadn't, since he had just been playing with his friends and worked with metals as a blacksmith. Learning this fact about him, Damien knew that working will be a bit difficult without a certificate, so he started to think of a game plan. As he started to think of a plan, Uncle asked him if the adventure badge was something like an excavator license. Damien corrects him, informing him that the adventure badge would make it easier for him to create a blood alliance. Hearing about the blood alliance immediately catches the attention of Uncle Chun Sam, as this was what his friends and him were waiting for. He needed to create a blood alliance first. As Uncle laughed after discovering this fact, Damien smiled to himself, watching the innocent and naive guy in front of him. He knew now that what was important right now wasn't hunting. Seeing Uncle's reaction, Damien asks him if already had members. Uncle reveals that he did and that they were aiming to be the best manufacturing workers alliance. After hearing that, Damien was sure that Uncle Chun Sam was going to be the best, so he needed to adjust his plans based on the future too. Summoning the slow metal carriage from before, Damien figured that the thing that was more important than leveling up right now was something else, so he suggested to Uncle that they hunt for something a bit different this time. A spider that was bigger than all of the ones that they had hunted so far. Damien's plan was to use this hunt to prove his worth to Uncle and receive his favor. Deep in the Sloth Valley rocky zone, the uncle and nephew pair were moving quietly in the eerie place filled with fog. Damien started to look around, confident that what they were looking for was around here somewhere, but the lack of light made it hard for him to see properly. Seeing Chippy on his shoulder, Damien asks him for some light. Within a second, Chippy had summoned a bright ball of light right above his head, like Goku's spirit bomb. But it turns out to be a tiny ball of light, which Damien found disappointing. But even so, the system informs them that they have discovered new geographical information. Their new location was a place called Land of the Black Rock. While Damien was disappointed by Chippy's small ball of light, Uncle Chun Sam was impressed by it, making Chippy climb on his shoulder instead. As they ventured deeper into the unknown, a strong green smell started to reach Damien's nose. Making him sniff and look for it more, Uncle Chun Sam was curious about what our boy was currently doing, as he looked like a dog. Damien explains to him that the sniffing was because there wasn't much light, so it was hard for him to find what they were looking for, so instead of using sight, Damien was going to use his sense of smell. He assures Uncle Chun Sam not to worry, as he was sure that the thing they were looking for was in this area and that he was going to find it soon. Seeing Damien sniffing away into the darkness made Uncle Chun Sam turn to Chippy, asking him if it was normal for people to find monsters by sniffing out their smell. But Chippy didn't know about it either. Laughing at Chippy's reply, Uncle Chun Sam was still confident in his nephew's ability and was sure he had a proper reason for doing so. But as he was talking to Chippy, the same smell that Damien was sniffing finally reached his nose, but it was too strong, causing Uncle Chun Sam and Chippy to cover their nose from the horrible stench. Smelling the weird sour smell, Uncle Chun Sam immediately chases after Damien, warning him about the horrible stench, as the system warns them that there was a strange hostility coming from their surroundings and that something was looking at them from the shadows. Standing in a wide open area, Damien was proudly smiling, informing Uncle Chun Sam that he had found what they were looking for all this time. In truth, Damien was almost happy to smell the stench of a corpse rotting. But being in this area in this life was strange to him. Before regressing, Damien had come here with a whole party, but now, there was only him, Uncle Chun Sam and Chippy. Sensing that a fight was about to begin, Damien summons his daggers while warning Uncle that a fight was coming for them. Instead of being afraid, Uncle was happy to hear that, bringing out his own warhammer in an instant. The system warns the boys that there was a strong feeling of death that was sweeping the place they were standing in, before informing them that the monsters of this place were finally revealing themselves. As a bunch of bright red eyes started to appear from the ceiling, right above them. To start off the fight, Damien immediately places his hand onto the ground, summoning a bright golden circle, which uses his witch doctor skill called reviving the dead. He then turns around, asking Chippy if he was ready. Soon enough, a bunch of Chippy's family members started to appear once again, holding onto their blowguns, armed and ready for firing. In his battle armor and holding a red flag, Chippy was leading his brothers and sisters, waiting for Damien's single command. Seeing everyone prepared, Damien orders Chippy and his siblings to aim for the ceiling. And to commence firing onto everything that was moving around. Following his orders, the siblings fired an endless barrage of darts straight into the ceiling. Chippy and his siblings' attacks seemed to land without missing and were powerful enough to knock the spider monsters from the ceiling. As they fell to the ground, Uncle Chun Sam took the chance to deal the finishing blow, smashing every one of them into pieces. Both of them were battle maniacs, as even Damien was smiling from ear to ear as he sliced each of the spider monsters that fell from the ceiling. As they stepped through the dead bodies of every spider monster that they had slain, Uncle Chun Sam asks Damien about what kind of spiders they had been killing since they looked different. Damien tells him that these were the grunt soldiers. It turns out that grunt soldiers were the babies the queen laid and also the guards of this place that they were at. They would sometimes also be the queen's meal if they were being bad boys or girls. Their true names were red soldier spiders that protect the queen's refuge and move solely based on her commands. Seeing more of the spiders coming in different forms, Damien feels that they could communicate with one another, while Uncle Chun Sam could clearly see that they were pissed off right now. Tired and angry at the loud noises the new spider monsters were making, Damien started to scold them as he felt that they were cursing at him straight at his face. He finally snaps and attacks first with his own blowgun, hitting the closest spider monster directly into one of its eyes. Laughing at his attack that landed, Damien still cursed at the spiders, but as he did, Uncle Chun Sam shouted at him, warning him to duck as more of the spiders appeared right above Damien's head as he was distracted. Just like Thor, Uncle Chun Sam throws his mighty warhammer, covering Damien from the spider attacks and killing all of them in a single blow. Damien was shocked to see this. He was glad that Uncle was here, or else his head would have gone flying instead. Looking at how the spiders were moving, Damien informed Uncle Chun Sam that the spider monsters were going to be more active from now on, and trusted him to watch his back. With his trusty warhammer back in his hand, Uncle was ready for the fight, and prepared to watch Damien's back. In a massive T-flexing pose, a blue light starts to appear all around Damien's body as she summons a bunch of arrows from his sides. Pointing his arm straight towards the spider monsters that were incoming, he sends all the blue arrows into their direction, using the witch doctor's skill called Vengeful Spirit's Arrow. The blue arrows were powerful and accurate, landing onto each of the spider monsters easily and killing them. But there was a slight issue. More of the spider monsters started to appear even after killing a bunch of them at the same time. Damien was slightly panicking, seeing that there was another endless swarm of them heading their way. Coming up with a new plan, Damien summons another round of the Vengeful Spirit's Arrow, commanding Chippy to assume a new formation and to cover him while he does something else. Heeding Damien's command, Chippy went over to his siblings' side, telling them to get in line to form the third formation. Chippy and his siblings were now lined up alongside one another on a nearby cliff, shouting to Damien that they were ready. Wasting no time at all, Domain orders them to fire at once, as he fires his own blue arrows towards the endless horde of spider monsters coming their way. The combined attacks of Chippy and his siblings along with Damien's witch doctor skill was effective as the spider monsters started to die one by one, before even reaching them. Things were going as planned. Damien started to smile as he felt that this was doable, and was glad that he had trained Chippy with several strategies. Now that this side was taken care of, Damien turns around to check on Uncle Chun Sam, who was smashing away with his warhammer. It turns out that he was having the time of his life as he slams each of the spider monsters with ease, using his blacksmith skill, called Hammerfall, killing each of them with a single blow. That one hit was enough to send shockwaves throughout the cave they were in, destroying and cracking the stone all around. Damien could only comment that Uncle Chun Sam's skill was crazy, and that he had evolved from a monster to a being that was basically unbeatable. As the both of them continued to kill each of the spider monsters that came for them, something started to happen with their dead bodies. The same strong green smell started to come out of them. Not only was the smell even stronger than before that caused Damien to cover his nose, but Uncle Chun Sam could hear something loud coming their way. Looking at Damien for an answer, our boy warns Uncle to be careful. Looking at how the spider monsters were now behaving, Damien knew that this situation was unusual, as the spider monsters were getting into formation. He knew that since the queen always places her survival first, and doesn't usually move herself. But when a certain amount of her spider children and soldiers were dying, then she would become stressed and even more aggressive from before. As the system gave out red warnings this time, Damien and Uncle Chun Sam prepared themselves for what was coming as the spider monsters were moving in a formation. The system then tells Damien and Uncle Chun Sam that the forgotten Spider Queen was revealing herself and that they needed to prepare for the Master of the Refuge's wrath. Seeing this confirms it for Damien, the Queen herself was finally crawling out. A large monster with a woman figure appeared, covered in a bright purple aura, letting out a fierce scream that sent shockwaves in the air. With a scary-looking face, the forgotten Spider Queen has revealed herself. The Spider Queen, Aliwan, one of the queens of the countless factions who led the ancient spider kingdoms. She was defeated by one of the 12 pure-blooded branches princesses, Arasheen, and lost most of her lineage's abilities, with only the instinctual desire to survive remaining. Compared to several hundred years ago, she was atrophied in several aspects, but she possesses strong acidic bodily fluids to digest most organisms and a strong obsession for her prey. She is much greedier than before. Her unique trait is that this monster is of noble blood and has quite high physical abilities and remaining techniques.
Thanks for watching the latest part from the voice of Manhwa. Subscribe for more content and don't forget to comment below what you want to see in the future. Like and share for more.